back with my little flower slow stitch book, and today we're going to have a go at lilac. I had a lilac tree in our garden when we were growing up, which was always really pretty, and I just thought that would be a good flower to experiment with. Got quite a lot of different lilac colours, and it could also, sometimes they're a little bit pinky, sometimes they're a bit blue, so you could really just choose your favourite colours for this one. We are going to use a little bit of organza, since that's what I've been working with at the moment. I've got my rainbow piece, and just in between the pink and the blue there's kind of a purpley colour, and I might tip sort of into the blue section a bit more. I'm going to cut sort of a triangle. I think that is the shape I'm looking for. We'll have a look at it on the background fabric. Oops. So that is actually a bit pinky. But I might layer it up. Let's see what a bit of blue underneath does. I think that is probably purpley enough. We're just going to go with one flower head because I'm going to do French knots, which are going to be quite time consuming. Round the bottom off a little bit. And we want a couple of leaves as well. This is a very pale green, slightly different to the one I've used on the rose here. So I think again I want to layer it up a little bit. There we go. And this is just to add a little bit of colour to the background. I'm going to use French knots, so I've got some different purples here. I'm probably going to vary the size of the French knots as well as the colours, and I'm going to do that by using more strands of thread. You can wrap it round your needle more times, but I think the correct way of doing it is just using more threads or using a thicker thread like a wool to get the look, the bigger look. So with French knots, they're very fiddly. You definitely want it in a hoop, and I'm going to use my little stand as well so I can get underneath. We'll start by tacking down our background fabric, and then we're going to crack on with a lot of French knots. so I won't show you them all. I'm doing these flowers in a book, but I think they'd also make really nice gifts. You could do them on little lavender scented bags. You could do them just on a canvas board as a sort of postcard, or cut them out and put them on a card for someone's birthday, something like that. I'm just doing some holding stitches here. Might remove these afterwards, not sure. I think I will probably want to do stem stitch to do some detail on the leaves. Let's just 1 or 2 strands for keeping things in place. And the good thing about using a background colour, which could be a piece of fabric or it could be some watercolours, is that the French knots don't have to be completely covering space, because you'll have the colour behind it. So I'm just going to do a tiny amount of running stitch. Then we will start our French knots, and you could do Lazy Daisy, perhaps with little French knots in the centre, because when you get close to lilac they are actually tiny little flowers, but from a distance you just get this great pop of colour, and I think French knots will work well for that. You could also do bullion knots if French knots are not your thing. You could mix them up a little bit, just so that they are all sort of tumbled together. Managed to get 6 strands through my needle without much of a problem, so I'm going to start with 6 and see how that looks. I've decided to go with sort of darker colours and then heading up to light, but you could just do patches of different colour. I'm going to see which I like best and probably do mainly one colour with just little bits of the extra colours. Let's see how big this looks. You usually work with 2 strands for most things. Quite like it, it looks okay. And we do want a little bit of the organza showing, really, so I'm not going to do them too close together. We'll see what it looks like, and then if I think actually it looks a little bit bald, we will go back and add more. But we certainly want to leave perhaps the edging showing a little bit. it is coming together now. I've used 2 colours so far and 2 different sizes. So these large ones are 6 strands, and then I've also done 3 strands. I'm not going to go any smaller than 3 strands. That looks good as it is. And I found working with 6 strands quite hard. It's hard obviously to thread your needle, but it's also harder to pull it through your fabric. And I did find a few hairy moments when I thought it was going to knot up and cause me problems. But it survived. So I'm carrying on with some more 6 and some more 3. It is creating a really nice sort of raised effect, as French knots do. I'm liking the sort of shades of colour, and I've got them quite close together, not too close together. You can see the fabric underneath, just gives it sort of a depth. You don't have to use any fabric underneath, and if you're not a fan of French knots, you don't have to use French knots. You could do some other kind of knot, a bullion knot, or you could do tiny lazy daisies, which would also from a distance just look like lots of little petals all together. So I think that would work quite well too. We're going to carry on with another lighter colour. I'm probably just going to go with mainly 3. I might add that lightest colour in again, but we'll see how it looks. So I don't know, you can kind of hear it pulling through when you're using 6. It's quite tough. Still make a good looking knot though with 6 strands. Here we go, this is the tricky bit. Yeah, this doesn't look too light, so I think I might use some of the extra light thread as well. I'm just dotting the larger ones about, and then I will switch to the smaller ones, and I'm probably doing about twice as much small as I did large. If you're finding you're having trouble pulling it through, you can just loosen it a little bit, but you don't want a really loopy French knot. Just loosen it a little bit, then pull through. Each colour I've done, I've gone, oh, I like this colour, I'm going to do more of this colour. I'm just thinking the same now with this one. I'm going to mix in a little bit more with the 3 strands into the middle, I think. You don't want it too uniform, you want it to look sort of natural. Nearly getting there with the flower. I'm starting to think about the leaves a little bit more now. I was just going to embroider the sort of branch that they're coming off, but I think I am going to use a bit of the organza just as a base, since everything has some organza on it. It's very pale, like the leaves. I probably want to do 2 layers. I wonder if I can sort of twist it. Yes, quite like that. I'm going to twist it and then sew some stitches down the middle, probably in this green here. It's going to be quite 3D, this one, I guess. Maybe a little bit wider. So we'll put some stitches there to almost reach the 2 leaves, if not reach the 2 leaves. Let's have a little go. Got to give yourself permission just to play about, and if it doesn't look good I can always unpick it, because we are just going to use little tiny stitches, which we then might add some more detail onto later. So I'm going to do that, and then I will trim off that probably. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that, and I think I will just flatten it a little bit with stitches. There we go, it is in place how I want it, but I will do probably some stem stitch or something coming all the way down and then off onto the leaves as well. And here we go. So I've taken the stem stitch up and down the stalk a little bit and actually into the bottom of the flower touch, and done a little bit more detail on the leaves. Put a tiny amount of the lightest lilac colour in there, and I think it looks good. You could obviously do more and have them thicker, have them sort of closer together, but I did want a little bit of the organza showing through. Some areas are a little denser than others, but I think overall it looks good. Let's take it out of the hoop. There we go, let's fold it back up. There we go, I think it's pretty, that one. That's with the rose next to it on the next page. You can tell slightly different effects on the leaves. I've done and also I've sort of teared the edges with the rose, giving it a rough look, but for this one it's quite a clean look. Let's have a little close-up. Another piece for my book using organza as a base, and I'm pretty pleased with that.